how to balance depth and simplicity. Another extremely important question on everyone's personal growth journey. I'm going to give you 2 pieces of practical, actionable insight, but first I need to give credit to the person who inspired this video. Dr. Critical left a long comment asking, amongst other things, about this, so I'm not going to read the whole comment, I'm just going to address what he said, and that is asking how to establish balance between pursuing depth, that is understanding the depth and complexity of our own psyche in order to understand ourselves better, versus simplicity, as in, as he says, I'm guessing fix your attitude, fix your effort, and you will be on your way. Once again, something that's important for everyone's journey, because if you're watching this video, if you have been watching my previous videos or reading my short form or long form content, or if you are new to my channel but was tempted to watch this video, it means that you are interested in establishing that balance. And why would you be interested? Because you have a tendency towards seeking depth. So it's almost impossible that someone who doesn't have the tendency towards seeking depth in life is interested in this video. That's why you're at the right place. You have to establish that balance. As I said, 2 actionable, practical pieces of insight regarding this topic. First one, there is no universal balance. There is no the balance with capital T and capital B. There is your balance. And as I said, because you're watching this video, whether you're new here or you've been watching and reading my stuff, it most probably means that you are someone who is leaning more towards depth. However, I cannot make assumptions. I have to pose that challenge to you, to sit with yourself and ask yourself, where am I naturally leaning more towards? Or what am I naturally leaning more towards? Again, I have to remove my assumption that for most of you it's going to be depth. And once you see what you're leaning more towards, then you have to make a conscious effort to move in the opposite direction in order to establish that balance. Extremely useful piece of writing, advice, insight for me was from the Roman Stoic Seneca. He wasn't talking about depth versus simplicity, he was talking about pessimism versus optimism, or awareness of uncomfortable reality of existence versus optimism. Because there is the idea of premeditatio malorum in Stoic philosophy, which is contemplating everything wrong that can happen. So very much different from, law of attraction and only visualizing you succeeding and achieving and getting great things. Stoics recommended to contemplate everything bad that can happen, everything that could go wrong, not in order to catastrophize, but in order to strengthen and prepare yourself, because life is unpredictable. And by the way, just a side note, that piece of advice has helped me immensely in my life. However, we come to the point where some people are going to allow that preparation for difficulties of life to lead them into a loop of catastrophizing and of being afraid of life, being afraid of the future. So how does Seneca resolve this problem of proposing people to strengthen themselves by preparing for the worst, but still not wanting people, because Seneca is the same one who says, don't suffer from the future that hasn't happened yet. I'm paraphrasing. So we have the same person telling us to prepare ourselves for the worst, but also not to suffer from the future that hasn't happened yet. How does he reconcile this seeming paradox? He says, look at yourself and what you personally are leaning more towards, and then make a correction. Don't make an overcorrection, which is something that humans tend to do. Don't make an overcorrection, but do make a correction through conscious effort. Now, let's bring it back to depth versus simplicity. If my natural tendency is this here, if my natural tendency is to read Jung's map of the soul and to maybe overwhelm myself with understanding the complexity of the human psyche and understanding the complexity of my psyche, then advice for me is to make the conscious effort to make myself less deep, less profound, And I want to put it this way, don't romanticize. Don't overly romanticize and then by doing so rationalize and justify your tendency for complexity. Don't be the person who says, oh, I'm too profound to engage in life. Maybe you don't say that way directly, but kind of your complaints about life translate to that. I'm too profound for this world. This world is superficial and I'm too profound. Well, become more superficial, but in a controlled manner. No one is asking you to become Kardashians and Jake Pauls and Logan Pauls of the world. No one is asking you to join that tribe, or whoever, you know, the popular streamer is who just screams and doesn't contribute anything to the world, and people who are spending hundreds of hours watching them. No one is asking you to join that tribe. You know, there is a broad spectrum of superficiality or simplicity and depth. Lean a little bit towards simplicity and even superficiality if you see yourself being held back in life by your constant pursuit for the depth and complexity. So once again, the first step is to recognize there is no objective balance, there is your balance. How do you establish your balance? By asking yourself honestly, what am I leaning more towards to? Then, preventing yourself from glorifying your tendency. Don't create a bubble and an echo chamber where you are surrounding yourself with people where all of you together speak, yeah, we are just too profound to accomplish anything, we are too deep for this world, and then all of you are kind of confirming each other's bias towards whatever your tendency is. No, don't do that. Challenge yourself. One of the greatest shifts in my life came around 6 years ago when I decided, no, I'm going to stop glorifying the fact that I'm a person who always pursues depth, and I see people around me who are thinking less and achieving more. I'm going to stop criticizing them, and I'm going to steal some of their knowledge, let's call it knowledge, some of their skill in living life. By steal, I love to use the word steal knowledge. I love that phrase, not word. I love the phrase stealing knowledge because it adds something adventurous to it. Like you have to be proactive. You have to steal knowledge from here and here and here. Steal it not in the sense of not giving credit to someone, but stealing in the sense of there is something about it that is more than just studying. It's you grabbing to take what life will not give you if you don't take it. Anyway, enough about stealing knowledge. One of my biggest shifts came from the exact process that I'm explaining to you. Recognizing where my tendency was, recognizing that I'm too far on this end of the spectrum, and making a conscious effort to move at least slightly in the other direction. In my case, it was towards simplicity, towards action taking, towards enjoying the simplicity of life, enjoying the fact that yes, sometimes it is about, you know, as the person said, change the attitude, change the effort, and you are on your way. Which leads me to the second step. Find a character. You know, I'm big on stories, big on the value of myth. Again, Carl Jung, Rollo May, Maslow a little bit, Joseph Campbell, we have here Sam Keen, we have Robert Moore, so many of the great psychologists and thinkers of the last century and even last couple of hundreds of years emphasize the value importance of the myth. Myth is eternal wisdom. Myth is not fictional entertainment. Myth and fiction, even modern fiction, is mythology. Mythology is passing of the wisdom, of eternal wisdom of humanity from one generation to another. Okay, the second step is finding a fictional character, because fictional characters are, as part of that myth, carriers of wisdom. Finding a character that embodies that opposite, that you don't have in sufficient quantity. Find the character who resonates with you but is different from you in this aspect. Again, now I'm speaking as if for all of you the balance is achieved by becoming more superficial, more simple. That doesn't have to be the case, but I will continue speaking in that way. And for those of you for whom the case is opposite, you still understand everything that I'm saying. It's just you will be pursuing different direction. So, you find a character that has this opposite, and you are almost either taking him or her on as an alter ego and as a source of inspiration, almost like your animal spirit. But in this case, it's not an animal, it's your spirit guide. You can consider him or her also in that way. And maybe you go from there to create a completely new fictional character that is uniquely your alter ego. But you have to have something, someone, you have to have a character that is your reference for what does the embodiment of this balance look like. Of course, it can be a historical figure, but I think the range of possibilities is far greater with fictional characters. So let me just kind of change it up and say any character. It can be a historical figure or fictional character. I'm basically telling you what my preference is. And I can share mine. It's Kamina from the anime Gurren Lagann. So I can tell you that at the same point in my life, when I was spending 3, 4 to 5 hours reading Nietzsche and Kierkegaard, I was using Kamina as the counterbalance to prevent me from becoming what a lot of philosophy nerds become. And that's a bookworm that doesn't get anything accomplished in life, a bookworm that doesn't engage in life. And sorry to all the fellow philosophy nerds and bookworms out there, sorry, but you know that's the case. You know that's the case, that majority of those people stay stuck in that research of the depth of the human psyche and soul. For example, reading Kierkegaard makes literally your brain hurt from the questions that he poses. Nietzsche as well. Nietzsche, because he's more of a poet, can be more readable. Kierkegaard is sometimes it's just it's a physical, mental, cognitive, emotional, and spiritual effort to read Kierkegaard. Well, again, I'm saying in the process of exploring the depths of the human psyche and soul and existence through thinkers like Nietzsche and Kierkegaard, I was using Kamina as a counterbalance, and I can say now here that he helped me as much, or the story of Gurren Lagann helped me as much. This is not to say you need to watch it. Go read a fictional book. Go read a great novel. Watch a TV show. But I'm sharing who or what helped me, and I want to share the motto of Kamina. One of his great lines, he says, "Go beyond the impossible, kick reason to the curb." This is what you sometimes need in life. You don't need another philosophical dissertation of what existence is and how many dimensions of the mind there are. No, a lot of the times in life, you need to go beyond the impossible and kick reason to the curb. And sometimes all of these books are more harmful than useful. I'm saying this as someone who has dedicated his life to studying and researching and understanding humans better through a lot of studying and researching. And I'm telling you, sometimes, not always, this is not discouragement from reading. I love books, I want to get you to read more, but sometimes this is more harmful than useful, because sometimes what you need is to hear someone tell you, kick reason to the curb, go beyond the impossible. You have to believe in yourself in a delusional way. You have to be your own greatest hype man or hype woman. As I said in one of the previous videos, you have to be your own most passionate supporter. And sometimes that takes a level of simplicity, not depth. Jung, as much as he will teach you about yourself, is not always going to be the most encouraging writer in the sense of giving you that much needed kick in the ass. Pardon my language, and I hope YouTube doesn't have issue with me saying that phrase. So, to summarize, there is no universal balance between depth and simplicity. There is your balance. You find your balance by sitting with yourself or going on a walk with yourself and asking, what am I leaning towards naturally? Then accepting the project of making a conscious effort to start moving in the other direction in order to establish that balance. And finding someone, some figure, historical figure or a fictional character who will act as an embodiment and almost a guide towards that ideal. Someone who will remind you what it is like to be more what? More of the opposite. Again, I'm making an assumption that for most people reading this, you will need someone to show you what it's like to be more simple, more superficial. And I'm using the word superficial on purpose. Yes, sometimes more superficial, not just more simple, because the two are not exactly the same. And maybe for some of you, maybe you will need the opposite end of the spectrum. I will leave you with this one. Another from anime. You see, I'm a big anime guy. In Hunter x Hunter, the first couple of seasons, when it's the very beginning of this Hunter exam. For those of you who are not watching, sorry for the boring reference, but anyway, they're just running. They're in this test of more psychological than physical endurance, because they are running and they have no idea how long they will be running for. They don't know if it's going to be a couple of hours or a couple of days, and they are running, I think, for days at some point. I'm not sure. They're just running in sort of a tunnel and have no idea where they're going, how long it's going to last. And this character, Laurie, is really struggling. And at some point, he takes off his shirt, and he's this guy who is dressed in a suit, trying to appear very formal and older than he is. And at some point, he takes off his jacket and shirt, and there is this beautiful line. This line has meant more in my life than a lot of fictional, than a lot of great novels that I've read. It just proves the depth that any myth, any fictional story that is any myth can hold. And he says, I realize that as long as I don't care how stupid I look, I can keep going. One of the most beautiful things that one of the most beautiful, impactful, powerful things that I ever heard. As long as I don't care how stupid I look, I know I can keep going. Maybe that's the message to leave you with. Thank you.